If you train boxing, Muay Thai, Jiu-Jitsu, or any other competitive martial art for self-defense, then no, you don't. Probably. Self-defense is not about winning a fight, or even about winning anything at all. You are not being scored on damage. There are no rounds, breaks, rules, or Vaseline. It is about ending the attack, disabling your assailant's ability to attack you, and or escaping. Now, are the techniques and principles from these martial arts useful in a self-defense scenario? Yes, absolutely yes. But what you're really training for is a sanctioned duel with protective equipment and regulations. There's a reason you can't just kick a boxer in the balls, because the fight would be immediately over. I mean, look at all the stoppages in the UFC from accidental groin kicks. Now, the obvious difference is that punching and also blocking are vastly different when barehanded. The reality is, outside of a mutual combat scenario, the winner is most likely going to be the one with the greatest number of friends in the immediate vicinity. Also, UFC fighters sign waivers. Your attacker will not. You may be legally liable for what you do to them. Now, depending on where you live, this may be pretty lax, or you may be required to do only the bare minimum in order to escape, and nothing else. In self-defense, the game has changed, so you should too. Okay, first, do not strike hard targets like the head with your knuckles. You're likely to break them. You should use the heels of your palms instead. And frankly, it's far more effective. Just ask anyone that's been watching Bas Rutten for the last 20 years. Not only are these bones much stronger than the knuckles, but using open palms gives you a number of advantages. You can grab, you can rake the eyes, but I would not recommend putting your fingers near somebody's mouth. Whoop. Get back here, Bob. Hell, you could even take something like Agyuke, rising block, and turn it into something much more functional than blocking this here, but instead use it as a frame. The cross the chest frame is a staple in Krav Maga. It allows you to grab onto the shirt here. I can control his posture and the distance between us. I can also use this as leverage for a knee. You need to start thinking about your techniques outside of the box of how they were presented to you. These shapes are strong, but they're not just for blocking someone that comes at you with hammer fists. Now again, my goal is not necessarily to knock this person out. Do not attempt to attack his vital areas if you are not very close to him. Instead, attack his weapons, his joints, his connective tissues. Disable him from attacking you again. And keep yourself at a safer distance. In fact, in general, what you're going to want to do is use a size hierarchy for all your targets, right? If you're attacking something very soft, very squishy, like the eyes, or another area of just soft tissue, you can use your fingers. Let's say you go so far as to use a calf kick because you watched the UFC during the Conor McGregor days and you think that's the secret weapon. Make sure to use the larger part of your shin to the smaller part of theirs. Always, always show up with the bigger rock. Instead of throwing some high effort fancy kick that compromises your balance and if you do whiff it, will look very embarrassing when they replay it on the news that night. Simply sweep the legs. You don't even have to use your legs at all. Use your body weight. When you grab onto someone, they expect you to be fighting up here. If I sprawl like in a burpee and I keep myself connected to him, I will pull him into the space that I just occupied. If someone is pushing into you, putting all of that force here, and you're resisting, all you have to do is remove the support. You can do this in quick succession to confuse a person and to disrupt them in more complicated ways. So if he's pushing against me and I remove the support, but he recovers, then I push into him again and then I pull. Continue changing where you put your weight until this person falls on the ground. In fact, let's forget about striking altogether. Let's go back to our caveman roots, using the oldest attack in human history. You're capable of it. You've seen it before. And it's how most altercations in the street or in bars start off. Can you guess? Push. Now, if you're still a little incredulous, consider this. If I pushed you the way I just pushed Bob, would you consider that assault? If so, then how is it not an effective attack for you to use as well? Most people are not ready for a push, which is why most people use it. It's natural. You instinctively already know how to do this. So start there. Basic human instincts, the reflexes, you use them, incorporate them, so that when you're in that fight or flight, you reduce to the level of your training and your instincts. And everyone has this in them. So if they're going to start that way, why don't you use it? You just have to watch street fights or news clips of these altercations. Almost always, the way they end is with someone sitting on top of someone else until the police arrive. They are not ground and pound, getting the knockout, or performing an Ezekiel choke, right? I'm defending myself! Self-defense! 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 World star! They're waiting for the authorities to arrive. Okay? Not only because it's the right thing to do, but again, because of the legal ramifications I brought up earlier. You do not want to look cool on the news for 5 minutes and then spend 10 to 15 years in prison paying for it when you didn't even start it. If they're the kind of asshole that will attack you in the first place, then they are absolutely the kind of asshole that will sue you immediately after. Unfortunately, the burden is placed upon you, the defender, to control the escalation. You cannot over-escalate over someone because then you become the bad guy, right? If someone bumps into you and then you cripple them for life, that is not an equal measured response. It has to match the threat. So if they don't have a weapon, if they are not attempting to take your life, do not do anything that might accidentally take theirs. In extreme scenarios, you should always defend yourself first and then worry about the consequences later. However, I know people personally that were attacked in a bar, right? Clear aggressor, clear larger opponent, a huge advantage, a reasonable argument of fear of their safety. This person came in, the defender kneed them and struck them. This person sustained injuries. This person sued. The defender lost their job. Now, let's say you don't even care about the moral qualms with beating the shit out of somebody or crippling them for life. Not only can that mean jail time, but it can make it difficult for you to find a job in the future or keep the one you're currently in. So unfortunately, it is your burden to be careful. It is the part that is not talked about in self-defense, in that you will have to defend yourself potentially in court much later, maybe years later. So as cool as it might be to pull out your spinning back hook kick that you've been practicing to send this guy to the netherworld, consider the rest of your life afterward, because that person will not forget it. And if I've learned anything about human history, it's that most people want some revenge. If you escalate, they will come back. You cannot fight a war of escalation. You must protect yourself, disable them, and escape. That is it. It's not the fantasy that martial artists have of picking someone apart completely and then posing for the photo op, right? It's real life. And in real life, things happen, accidents happen. Even if you push someone, there's a chance that they may crack their skull open on the corner of the bar or the concrete or the curb. Do not escalate more than you need to. Do not throw one more punch than you need to. In fact, if you can avoid throwing punches, don't. control the weight, control their posture, put them on the ground, and then walk away or run. That being said, rule number one of boxing, martial arts, or self-defense is protect yourself at all times. Not attack your assailant. Defend yourself. Stop the violence. Do not continue or perpetuate the violence. If someone walks in after the fight has started, they may see you as the aggressor because all they see is you raining down blows on this helpless person beneath you. Optics matter. Perception matters. Witnesses matter. It is your responsibility to communicate to everyone around you at all times that you do not want the fight, that you are trying to get away. It is a heavy burden, but in order to protect yourself at all times, including later down the road in court, you have to consider these things before you get into the self-defense scenario. Protect yourself at all times, but be smart about it.